Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to Dementia Chats. My name is Laurie LeBay, and I'm the founder of Alzheimer Speak. And I'm a daughter whose mother lived with dementia for 30 years, and so did I. Walking alongside her, I found that her disease was probably the biggest gift I will ever receive in my life, and I really learned to appreciate the voice of those living with dementia. It was amazing, the life lessons and the insights that she had. And so I created Dementia Chats to help get other people's voices raised that are living with dementia, because I think society needs to hear them. So we're going to go around and introduce ourselves, and then from there, we are going to talk about how do you live well with dementia? How do you have a good life? And we're also going to touch on, how do you keep yourself kind of out of depression, because suicide rates are high. In fact, this morning I just got a call from my brother whose friend committed suicide. The holiday season can be really tough on all, and dementia is not excluded from that. So, Harry, do you want to start with your introduction, please?
Okay, my name is Harry Urban. I live in Pennsylvania, and I've been living with the diagnosis of Alzheimer's for 14 years.
Okay, great. Thank you. Michael?
My name is Michael Ellenbogen. I'm an international dementia advocate living with dementia.
True?
Full legal name is Truthful, Loving Kindness. I have Lewy body and vascular symptoms, but diagnosis is still mild cognitive impairment because the progression is still much slower than expected for either.
Great, thank you. Mary?
My name is Mary Radnofsky. I've been living with a genetic form of dementia called subcortical leukoencephalopathy for a little over 13 years. And I focus on the human rights of people with dementia.
Great, thank you. Craig?
Hi, my name is Craig Hanke. I was diagnosed in 2014 with Lewy body dementia and Parkinsonism symptoms. Looking back, though, I've had this disease longer than that. I can look back like 4 years before I was diagnosed.
Thank you. Mike?
Hi, my name is Mike Belleville. I'm from Massachusetts. I was diagnosed with dementia 5 years ago. Initially, it was diagnosis early onset or younger onset Alzheimer's. And 3 years ago, it got changed to Lewy body dementia.
Great, thank you. Laurie?
Hi, my name's Laurie Scherrer. I live in Pennsylvania. And in 2013, I was diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's and FTD, which is frontotemporal degeneration.
Thanks. And Cate?
Hi, my name is Cate. I live in Illinois. About 7 years ago, I was diagnosed with early onset dementia, which later changed to behavior variant frontotemporal dementia, BVFTD. I'm living well.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. I think, Cate, I'll go ahead and start with you. We're talking about living well and kind of fighting off depression. How do you not get depressed, and how do you live well and live with gratitude?
For the past 6 years, I have been not very grateful with what I have, of course, and who would be not depressed with dementia. But as I come to grips with what all's going on, I very recently realized how to deal with my depression by reaching out to other people, like calling out for help when the depression begins, and that has helped a lot. And online support groups, chat groups, and also has changed my way of thinking. Yes, I still struggle a lot, but with the Christmas season and running around, going to wrong places and such, I had a lot of laughs and good times, and I suddenly pulled myself together and say, you know what, I am still very blessed. I can still do a lot of things.
True, do you want to go next?
I think that it is that I've heard this so much from Harry. Acceptance is so crucial, and finding purpose. And like Cate was saying, appreciating what we've got. If we're constantly comparing what we can do to what we used to be able to do, And never mind. My thought just went away.
Okay, thank you. Michael, I'm going to go to you next.
Well, I got to tell you, for me, I like to live in the moment anymore. I no longer like to focus on what I could do, even though that's kind of hard. But because I live in the moment and I realize I can't change things, for me, I've come to accept that I've got a great life right now. In fact, my life is fantastic. You know, you could focus on the negativity side of this disease, and then it probably wouldn't be. But I choose not to do that, and I choose to think about the things I am able to do. I mean, I'm so lucky. You know, I'm going to be able to travel in the end of January. We're traveling again, and it's like, wow. You know, a lot of people would love to be able to do these things, but they're busy working. You know, they have a real job. You know, I no longer have that job. You know, to be able to just say that I'm able to go to my boat next season again and to enjoy that and to do things that I might not have been able to do if it wasn't for this disease, believe it or not. So I guess I choose to look at the good things I'm able to get done and the things that I've been able to accomplish. And as you know, I've taken some time recently for myself. You know, I used to be so gung-ho about being the dementia advocate that I forgot what it's like to enjoy my life because I was spending so much time doing that. Well, I've kind of put some of that aside a little bit. I mean, don't get me wrong. I haven't stopped. I'm still doing a lot of that, but I'm also focusing on myself. And by doing so, I'm realizing that I'm having a great life.
I was going to ask you about that because you, just looking from the outside in, you seem happier. You don't seem as intense. You just seem like there's a calmness within you. Like there's really a peacefulness that you found with that balance because you worked so hard for so many years to change dementia and how society and the world looks at it and deals with it. And you put in, you know, massive amounts of hours, like many here. I don't think people understand when people get diagnosed, the efforts that they put into creating change and making the world better and trying to, I think, almost look at, well, I got this, I've got to make something good of it, you know. I've got to make a difference for others. And that is like so extraordinary that people have to understand the efforts that you guys have put in, unpaid, I might say too, hours and just excruciating dedication. And you've put so often the cause before your own life and balance. I mean, it becomes your purpose. I've heard that from just about everybody, that you found a purpose at a depth that many hadn't felt before a diagnosis. But now you seem to really have come into this nice balance, and where you can do both, and it's still okay to enjoy life and to take time for Michael and your family and friends too. And that's really a wonderful example to see. I still haven't found that balance for myself yet, and it's something I'm working towards. But so I really appreciate your ability to step back and step back into your life, not just the world of dementia, but your particular life. I think that's a beautiful thing. You know, you're kind of leading by example on that as well. So thank you.
I can't take the full credit for that. I think I owe that to my wife, who I guess believed in me, and she wanted to buy that boat, and so she really made that choice, and I kind of just went along for the ride, and it turned out to be the best thing because she believed in me, wanting to do something that I wanted to do, but I wasn't sure I was capable of doing. So I really owe it to her, because if it wasn't for her, I probably would still be doing this, 100% of the time. At least now I'll be able to move my office of doing this to my boat. So I'll be kind of doing both at the same time. So it'll be shooting two stones, or I forgot what you say, but whatever, you know what I'm talking about. Doing two things at the same time.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mary?
I think Michael made a really good observation. I think sometimes not just people with dementia, but maybe a lot of people who get caught up with the holidays or with focusing on accomplishing a goal, an event, carrying off a wedding or carrying off a conference or whatever it is they're focused on, they get so focused on the task that they forget to actually stop and enjoy it and live each moment. And because sometimes when we do that, we get focused on tasks because we're so amazed that we can actually still accomplish something that we go, yes, we go all in. And then it ends up taking a toll on us instead of enhancing our lives, like going to a conference or traveling through TSA and going through all the hassles. And we go and do this and then come back and we're exhausted at the end of it instead of having enjoyed it. So I say bravo for Michael for doing that, but also for articulating it so well. I couldn't agree more.
So, Mary, how do you find balance and live well with dementia? And also, fight the kind of those demons of those down times too, where things get overwhelming.
Well, the overwhelming stuff is both physical and psychological right now, as my house is in a state of chaos with the kitchen sink in the living room and the stove in the dining room and the dishwasher just getting delivered and the refrigerator not fitting and being taken back to the store. So it's to me, I guess I get a little philosophical about it because it is so absurd right now. 2 weeks without a kitchen or running water in the kitchen or being able to access any of my belongings, no cabinets. I mean, it's so ridiculous. It sounds like it's right out of a movie. And I just try to imagine it kind of as a Bugs Bunny Roadrunner movie or a Tom and Jerry movie and a cartoon. And it really does make me shrug my shoulders and go, this stuff really doesn't matter in the end. And I think the balance that I find is in relationships. If I'm able to be close to somebody and be warm and just feeling like this person wants to be with me and doesn't feel sorry for me, then that's what makes me feel better about everything. And the rest really doesn't matter.
Thanks. Laurie, how about you?
For me, I'm like Michael. I really try to live one moment at a time, not even one day at a time anymore, because that just wasn't always working. So I try and focus on one moment at a time. I find such joy in life. And sometimes the little things, the birds chirping outside my door, or the deer doing their mating call. There's just so many little things happening. I still scuba dive, skydive, zip line, and do all kinds of things, but I do all those things way different than I used to. For example, scuba diving, I used to be an assistant instructor, and now I can't always remember how to put my gear together right. So Roy either does the gear for me or he checks to make sure I have my air turned on, which is important. Things are just really, so much of life is done differently, but I still can do a lot of things. And I try to focus on what I can do. And like Mary said, there's sometimes you're asked to do a project for whatever advocacy program I'm in, and you're like, ooh, I don't know if I can still do that. Oh, yes, I can, go get it. It's like so exciting when you can accomplish something that you thought you couldn't. But I think most important for me has been that advocacy work has given me a purpose in life again. And after I was first diagnosed, and then I couldn't work, and I was used to being a workaholic, and then you're at home and you're going, okay, what do I do now? With the advocacy, you feel like you've accomplished something to help other people. You don't feel like you're just sitting doing nothing. And that purpose has really helped me to drive a lot of my life. So I don't give in to dementia. I really try and say, no, I don't have time for you right now. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't listen. But I try to say, I don't have time for you.
Okay, great. Mike, how about you?
Well, I think to start off with, I think one of the most important things people need to do is to stay engaged in doing something. For some people, that could be advocacy. For other people, it could be their favorite hobby. But it's staying socially engaged. Or, I mean, even if you're doing a hobby by yourself, I consider that a form of engagement because you're engaging yourself. I happen to believe that I tell folks, I think that's the number one prescription doctors should be giving patients with a diagnosis of dementia. It's not a pill. It should be to stay engaged, to get involved, into doing something. I find by doing things like that on a daily basis is what helps stave off the times where I could easily go into a depression. I find when I'm not doing anything for 3 or 4 days, my wife Cheryl can see the difference versus when I'm doing something, even if it's just a little something. I've learned that I started painting earlier this year, watercolor painting, and that helps tremendously with anxiety and agitation. But I think everybody has choices, and people that know me know that my favorite quote is from a movie, Shawshank Redemption, and it's get busy living or get busy dying. And everybody has that choice, no matter if you have this disease or not. And I think everybody here is a perfect example of people that have chosen to get busy living, even with their diagnosis. And it's a perfect example of what people could do and people can accomplish by having that purpose that you had talked about earlier. And I think that's going to be my new tattoo. I've got one tattoo that has the Alzheimer's symbol and it says live life today. I think on this side it's going to say get busy living, as a reminder for myself. But I think that's pretty much what I would start off with.
Well, great. Thank you. I want to make a couple comments on what you said. One of the things you mentioned was you believe the number one prescription from doctors should be, social engagement and, doing a hobby or whatever it is. And yet we don't see that. And we don't see that, I think, because a lot of the doctors still don't know what's available. They don't believe. They haven't been educated in all the options that are out there, which is really sad. And, I've heard that over and over from people living with dementia. It's like I had to do my own research. I had to find my own groups. And so the more, we can all talk about this and bring it back to the doctors and say, this might help if you tell the next person this. Here's some options, because they just don't have the information in my mind. And I hear that from people all over the world, not just our country. This is a really common issue. And that would be such a nice point to start instead of get your affairs in order, and not that you don't need to do that, but it would be nice to know that there's still a life to be had instead of just waiting on this death path that I think so many people feel that, when they walk out the door, that's what they're given is a death sentence. And you guys are living proof that that's not the case. My mom is, she lived 30 years. We're going to see more and more people living longer with this disease because people are getting diagnosed earlier and participating in things like Dementia Chats and memory cafes or dementia mentors, or, there's so many different groups out there, both virtually and, in person. Volunteer opportunities. I love that you said you started painting again. and what that does, to you in terms of bringing calmness and a sense of satisfaction. I've seen some of your paintings; they're beautiful. And by you sharing that, I think it opens the doors. Mary, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I don't usually defend doctors, but the replacement neurologist that I had that diagnosed me, one of the first things he said to me was, there's a lot of ruin left in your brain. And it was this old Polish saying that means there's still a lot of life left in you, because it takes a long time to die. And so you're not dying anytime soon. And I give him a lot of credit for telling me that the day that he diagnosed me, because obviously I was devastated.
Well, that's wonderful, but that's a rare, I think, in terms of things. It's very rare, and hopefully it'll translate to more doctors. Michael, you had a comment?
No. I was giving you the thumbs up. I wanted to agree with what you said, that it's rare, and kudos to that Dr. Mary. I think that's fantastic. I wish that was the norm and not the exception.
Yeah. Michael Ellenbogen, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I think the culture needs to change. I've been living with this disease a long time, and I talked to many doctors. In fact, I recently spoke with a major doctor, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago, and he's like, "My God, you're living so long," And I think we need to change the attitude of the expectation. I mean, I realize that they say the average is about 8 years, but I also think that if you do a lot of good things, as I've been doing, I mean, I take a lot of damn drugs. My God, I take over 25 different drugs every single day. I think I have impacted this course of this disease. And the will to live is stronger than the will to die. So I think all these things are playing out, that I am living so much longer with this disease. And I'm not saying that I'm going to beat it, but I am giving it a hell of a fight. And I think a lot of us here are doing that. And, people shouldn't keep telling us that you only have so many years to live with this. And I think it's a matter of how much will some of us have to continue fighting on this. And that should be the incentive that they should be trying to push for us, is that you can live life a longer time with this disease as long as your attitude is good and you're doing, exercising and eating right. And, there's a lot of different things that we can do to change this course. And, I'm just so tired of all these doctors and everybody telling me that, hey, you're already, should be dead. Well, you know what? Stop telling me these things. Let's start thinking of what I need to do to be living longer.
Agree. And I think part of it too is, they're now saying, people probably had symptoms 10 to 15 years before, and some are going into the doctor earlier, in that 10 to 15 year period. Well, that adds a lot onto your, the life expectancy, where prior people were going in very end stages, or late stages. And so that makes a huge, huge difference. And, to me, they know so little about this disease. And we hear that every day that, it could be because of this, or maybe it's because of that. I mean, in terms of even what the causes are, and there's so many different types, and that keeps changing. And so I think we have to, take it all with a grain of salt. But I think when people have purpose, dementia or not, it enhances their life and their ability to live longer. Craig, how about you? What are your thoughts?
I agree a lot with what Michael was saying. When I was first diagnosed, like most people, the doctor tells you you've got 8 to 8.5 years to live. Here's a prescription. I'll see you in 6 months. And because of that, I fell into a very deep well of depression. Came out of it, started to look at like what they're talking about now, looking at what I have and had and grandchildren, and things were on the upbeat. I see my doctor this Friday, and I've been kind of in that state of depression again, but just listening to what these people have said today made me look real hard at what I have and actually perked me up quite a bit. So I agree with what they're saying, and I'm glad for what they did say, because it helped me out a lot today just listening to them.
Well, and that gets back to Mike's point and everyone else about staying socially engaged and being part and sharing and having honest conversations about. I think that's part of the problem too, is when we don't feel like we can be honest when we are down and struggling, when we're always trying to put a fake smile on. That doesn't help anybody. And so, we need to be able to have honest conversations and admit when we're feeling down, and not fully balanced and stuff, because otherwise people don't know how to help you, and I think just having these discussions with people who are all in a similar place, they've all been there, done that, and will probably do it again, and maybe need you to lift them up next time. I think that's a really beautiful, beautiful thing. And so many people in this world don't have that. And to me, that's one of the lessons that dementia is here to teach us, that it's okay to be authentic. It's okay to feel. It's okay to express ourselves, as long as we're not harming anybody, but telling people, who we really are. And we all go through all those emotions, but we don't talk about them a lot. And it's important. And I think, Harry, you're going to talk next, because I know you've got some real great concerns about, suicide and depression and people maybe not having those outlets as well.
We have such a tremendous support system around us that we sometimes talk over the heads of people living with dementia. Now, it depends what the audience is we're talking to. Now, the people I speak to is mostly people that are newly diagnosed. So a lot of the things I say, they can't imagine there's life beyond your diagnosis, because they haven't found the hope in living with this disease. So anything we say isn't going to help them until they find that hope, and then we can talk to them. It concerns me because of this is a time of year where so many people get depressed concerning the holidays. They are alone. They have nobody. They have nobody to talk to. And it concerns me because the suicide rate does go up during the holidays. And we have to do more with talking at their level, not our level, but their level. And I think sometimes we found our inner peace, that we lose sight of some of the fears some people have. And I know I went through a very difficult time not too long ago, because after 14 years, I became very comfortable with my life. Okay? Like Michael, I have a good life. And it's hard to explain to people how to get there. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. It's easy to explain to them, but it's hard to get them to realize and understand what you're saying. And that's why the message of hope is so important. I'm probably off topic, but this is a topic that is very, very special to me, especially at this time of year, because it's hard to imagine what some people are going through at this time of year. I speak to many people that just break down in tears. And at first it was hard for me to understand why. You know, I always assumed it was something else. And then I come to realize that they have no one to talk to. You know, they have no one to listen to them. And I think that's one of the most important things we have to do as advocates of this disease, that we have to bring it down to their level.
Well, Harry, I think you bring up some good points. And in terms of living well with this disease, I think everybody here is a very compassionate person, you know, and you've really opened up your lives to the good, the bad, the ugly, and the joyful. I mean, which not everybody does. And there's a lot of us with and without dementia that might have a lot of people around us, but might not have that person who listens. And there's a big difference. And everybody needs somebody who listens, who really hears them, who accepts them for who they are. And, you know, what I have seen is people, especially people with dementia, are more compassionate and in a lot of ways less judgmental of others because of the difficulties that you guys struggle with. You know, you see, and some of you have probably always been like that, but I think when anybody has a difficulty, if it's cancer, if it's dementia, if it's a loss, you start looking at the world a little bit different. You go inward and go, wow, things could be worse, you know, and how do I make it better? And it almost seems very intuitive in terms of your approaches. I think what I see and what I sense, and I might be doing too big of an umbrella on this, but I see people that are very in tune to their surroundings at a deeper level than many other people are, because, you know, they're so busy and they're moving through things so fast. And a lot of times dementia has to slow things down. And to me, that's one of the biggest gifts of dementia. And so I love that you're talking about being compassionate. And no, none of us can fix anybody, but we can support one another. And that is a gift on both sides, you know, to be able to give that support, and then for someone to be able to receive that. Not everyone's always ready to receive it, like you said, either. But acknowledging it, just that in itself, I think is a huge thing. And to be able to have an open conversation about it, and be aware that everybody's life isn't as good as yours. Or might not be having a moment as balanced as yours right now. And you might be that person next that's not feeling in tune, you know, and balanced and peaceful. And I think you guys do a really nice job of supporting one another's and reaching out to others. Sometimes I think, you know, when you say you can't really give somebody hope, but you guys lead by example. And to me, that's one of the best ways to be able to support and show others, is you walk your talk. I really appreciate that very much. Harry?
Support comes in all kind of different levels. Most of us think support is just verbal, talking to somebody and giving them. But you know what? I found out some of the biggest supports is just a smile, a touch, things like that. And that's one of the things a lot of us don't know about, and we don't practice. Like, whenever I'm walking down the street, I say hi to somebody and smile at them. And you know what? 9 times out of 10, they smile back. And you know what? I know I put just a little bit of joy into their life. And that's what, to me, advocating is. Just that little bit of joy.
Great. True, did you have a comment?
Not that I remember. I'm having a hard time processing words today. You know, I hear them, I know them, but they're mostly just floating by.
Okay. Mary, you had a comment, and then Craig?
Well, really, Benji wanted to say something. and that is that there's actually some new research on the relationships with people and animals. And they recently did some research with people and dogs, and they're looking at each other, smiling at each other, if you will. And then they measured the chemicals in each person. There was oxytocin, dopamine, and serotonin, the other happy chemicals, in your brain. And not only do they raise in people, they raise in the dogs. And it's therefore a mutual relationship that actually gets developed. And when you realize that, you're not only helping yourself, you're helping someone else. And of course, it's true in humans. It really seems to improve the quality of life. And I think that is an important thing to realize. That's what he wanted to say. So.
Great.
And maybe I should mention it's not just dogs. It's most. I researched the different animals that have the chemical response that ups their levels. And I couldn't find anything on reptiles, but, most mammals and poultry, etc. They all have that increase in the relationship, like we were saying. It's relationship, not just with other people.
Great, thank you. Craig, you had a comment?
Yeah, just responding to Harry's comment about just the little thing like a smile and a kind word can make your day. One of my doctors suggested, and other friends have suggested that I start writing a blog. So I've started it. I haven't published it yet because I'm still learning how to write a blog. But it gives me something to look at every day. I'm actually excited to go in and do the blog. So it can be something small, like Harry was saying, that can actually help out you or help out your day.
Go ahead, Hank. Thank you, Craig.
Yeah, I think not everything I say is quotes, but I do like quotes. And I think one of my other favorites is by Jackie Robinson, and it's, "A life is not important except for the impact it has on other lives." And I think everybody's showing that with the compassion that they have for other people, that it's not about you, it's about other people and what you can do to help them. Whether that's just having a shoulder to cry on, to listen to, or just hanging out with them, or whatever it is. And again, that goes obviously not just for people living with dementia, but I think especially for people living with dementia in the early parts of when they got their diagnosis, like what Harry was talking about. I didn't go from get busy living to get busy dying overnight. I mean, it was a process. I went, just like Craig talked about, and Harry talked about it. And I went into a deep depression right after my diagnosis for 5 or 6 months. It wasn't until I started going to support groups and started meeting other people who were going through the same challenges I was going through that I learned that I wasn't alone. And that's where I found the hope. So I think compassion can do a lot of things, but it obviously helps you as well by giving something to somebody else.
Great, thank you. Laurie?
I think what Mike was saying, if I could build on that, I don't know of anybody who was diagnosed with dementia that didn't go through a period of grieving what they've lost. I don't know that I'd call it depression. I'd call it sadness over depression, but a period of feeling very sad over all the changes. And in addition to that, many of us also got hit financially. So now, in addition to all these emotions about how am I going to handle this, I'm dying, what am I going to tell the family, how's the family going to handle it, you've also got, how am I going to eat? How am I going to pay my bills? So you have that added stress and burden on top of just all the general emotions you're feeling. But I think, as in so many other things in life, whether we've lost a job, we've moved, lost a loved one, there comes a point where we need to say, okay, enough of this, I need to live. And with dementia, I anticipate that anybody newly diagnosed is going to go through those periods. They are going to have a tough time to begin with. I haven't yet found someone that came out of the doctor's office and went, oh, yay, I have dementia. Okay, life's going to be good anyway. No, it usually doesn't occur that way. But you do need to come to a point that you kind of examine your inner self and say, what legacy do I want to leave behind? And who do I want to die as? And how am I going to live? You need to make the best of it. And it's hard. Like Mike was saying, it's not overnight you say, okay, I'm changing my whole attitude. I'm changing everything I do. No, it's a progression of continuously building towards being the person you want to be and coming to terms with your dementia and saying, okay, I still can do this, this, and this.
Thank you, Laurie. Cate, how about you?
I think Harry just raised his hand. He's got something to say first.
What is very, very interesting about this conversation that I'm picking up is we're talking about ways to live with our disease and get over the symptoms of it, but not one person mentioned medication. Okay, now that kind of backs up my philosophy, is that I'm not saying medication is not necessary at all, but I'm saying that there is ways to live with your disease without being overdosed. And I think we're proving that. And that's why these discussions are so important.
I agree. Michael, I'm going to go down to Cate first and then up to you, okay?
Hi. It wasn't a choice that I had to make to live positively or live with depression. It so happened that this was triggered because this whole weekend has been funny, okay? Once I discovered that's funny, I don't want to go back to the depression and the, my funny has been continuous this whole weekend. I went to a graduation party. I went like, ooh, party, I love it. I was all dolled up, went to the party. And then I told my husband, I said, hey, it's pretty quiet for a party, especially a graduation party, this is quiet. So he looked at me, she says, yeah. I said, well, there's a party. I'm going in. We'll ring the doorbell. Maybe they're in the garage or something. In winter, in Illinois, are you kidding? The house looked like nobody's home. I rang the doorbell. The mom, I could hear running. I went like, yes, Margaret's here. The mom opened the door and saw me and said, you must be Cate. Her kids have worked for me. Margaret has worked for me since she was in high school. When for a little while there, when I was first diagnosed, I was given the wrong medication for FTD. So it blew me away. Like I was on Namenda, Aricept, Keppra, Exelon patch, you name it. And I did not get well, just made me very, very sick. So I hired Margaret as my assistant. So every time she has a break, summer break, spring break from working at the store as a cashier, she would be here helping me. So we became very good friends. I love young people. I love high school kids and I love college kids. I live around campus. They're the most fun, loving, lovely kids. So anyway, I got to know Margaret, so we became very close. So it's her graduation. magna cum. Come on, everybody, that's a Latin word. Magna cum.
Cum laude?
Magna cum laude.
Cum laude, yes, in biology. And I went like, dang, Margaret is back again. And I have not cleared the papers that we stacked since she was in high school. So I shoved the whole wicker basket, you know, under the table because it's high school and everything. I said, don't touch it. So, you know, that's the beginning. So I went to her house. The mom came out and said, hi, you must be Cate and all that. I said, this is very quiet. I said, I come to Margaret's graduation. She said, okay, you come at the right time, but it's next Saturday. I went like, oops. I said, isn't the first time. I said, well, just in case I don't come next Saturday, would you give this card to Margaret? So she says, all right. So, you know, she showed me her house, very much like my house, all Victorian and wood. And so then we left, and I was still laughing at myself, like, how on earth can you do this again? I've gone to a funeral. That's a wrong day, wrong funeral home, thinking that they've buried my friend. And I heard that it's a wrong day and a wrong funeral home. So I went another day, and yeah, it was Gary's, you know, funeral. I've done all kinds of things. So I'm thinking about, well, I'm going to start writing all the things that I've goofed up with. And when I wrote them, it's funny, like yesterday at the store. So it is not really by choice. I stumbled upon this happiness, and I'm very, very grateful that I have. Then I make a choice that, you know, I know now what it is like to be happy. I went to my eye doctor. I had 2 strokes about 3 weeks ago. So I went to my eye doctor, and she says, what are we looking at? I said, hey, I think Dr. Scherrer said I went blind for like an hour or so just before the TIA. I said, so you're supposed to look at my eyes, I assume. So I went like, oh God, the frontal lobes must have progressed and goes to my occipital lobe, and now it's affecting my vision. Oh my gosh, what am I going to do if I go blind? Well, good news, I'm not going blind. I can see my grandkids grow up instead of touching, and, you know, I went like, yes, I'm not blind. I have a sense of humor. I still like partying, although not many people show the kind of parties that I like, you know, but there's still, you know, hope, Harry, hope for more parties, yes, to come. And then, speaking about doctors and medication, yes, I agree with several of us here that we are all over-medicated. I've been suffering from my spine degeneration like crazy. You all know about it. You've heard about it. So I decided I'll go to physical therapy. All right, finally, I'm giving in. I'm going to just go for the best. Physical therapist examined me. She took a finger and she put it one place for like 5 minutes. And then she says, do you feel anything? Do you feel needles? Do you feel a warm burning sensation? I said, needles, like a lot of small needles hitting me here. And it transferred the needle pricking sensation to here. Well, I went home. On the way home, I feel like, well, this is weird. I'm not doing this anymore. This. It worked. 10 minutes of one finger on my neck, on a nerve or something. And now I am totally not, like say, I did not expect total healing, long-time cure, but relief for one day is good. 1 week without medication, and I have an appointment today at 2 o'clock.
Well, that's great.
One appointment, I know, one appointment a day, okay, would wear me out, all right?
Yeah.
I don't even have time for depression. I will just be like dead. I am so amazed that Michael, Harry, and all of you have the strength and the energy to go out there and advocate. When I am down, I cannot do anything. I just lay down, and that can be for 3 days, you know, on the couch, and I just can't move. It's like, oh boy, you know what? I'll just give up. Those are the days when I say, I'll just give up. You know, God, take me. I'm ready. Take me now before I start getting mad and think things in my head that's bad and say things that's bad. I'm ready. Take me now. But it's not easy to die, you know.
I'm glad you found the ability to kind of laugh at yourself and see the humor in it, move forward. And like you said, everyone's going to have those cycles. We're going to have our good days and our bad days and things. I want to go up to Michael.
Well, Harry mentioned something, and I don't want to underestimate what drugs could do for you, because I got to tell you, I wouldn't be what I am today without the help of these drugs. I mean, I'm on anxiety medication. I'm on depression medication, and I started taking them very early on, way, way early on. And I got to tell you, without it, I'd be a real mess. I probably wouldn't be what I'm capable of doing today. So, you know, for some people, you can get by without the drugs, but I also would say that try them out if you have any depression or anything, because they do change your life. They changed my life a lot. And I don't want people to think that you have to do it alone without drugs.
That's a good point. Everybody's individual. Laurie?
I was just going to say, everybody's individual. Those were my exact words, Laurie. It really, you need to come up with what's right for you. I don't take any because what I did take, like Cate, I was diagnosed with FTD, but they put me on donepezil, and I went downhill real fast. So after trying a couple things and then making me worse or making me just feel horrible or making me moody, and so then they wanted something else because now I was moody, I just said, no, they're not for me. I think that's where we're all different, and we need to find what works best for us. It's not always bad to be taking the drugs. It's not always good to be taking the drugs. So you need to figure out where your happy spot is, I guess.
Yeah, I think where your happy spot is and where you're comfortable with. You know, some people really believe in the pharmaceuticals and other people don't. I would really encourage people to try some of these support groups like Dementia Mentors and Dementia Chats and the memory cafes and see if that works as well. And know that the doctors don't have all the answers either. This is new. This is a trial and error thing, and you have to be your own advocate. Your family and friends need to stand up for you as well in what are they seeing as changes, because some medications are prescribed and people have very different effects that aren't healthy for them. And then it's okay to go back to the doctor and say that. Cate, go ahead.
In closing, for myself anyway, I just took a drink of my coffee and I read this. It's like, I deserve good things. I was very happy when I bought this last week. See, this whole past week has been great. Well, my take is surround yourself with things you love. And it does help. When there's better weather, I have the garden. In winter, you're going to be depressed. This is my art room. It is a mess. Okay, but after I wrap the presents, I will show you the floor, then you might be able to see it. And I am going to put more things that I love. It might be very eclectic, but that's who I am. It does not matter. But that is my last word. Surround yourself with things you love.
Great, thank you. Anybody else have any last comments? Just raise your hand and, okay, True?
I just want to say that I think balance is crucial, whether it's in how much time you're spending in advocacy versus how much time you've got in meditation, drawing, personal enrichment, the whole thing with medication. Balance, I think, is just so crucial.
Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want anybody who's listening, whether they've been newly diagnosed or been diagnosed for a while, and just to let them know that they're not alone, that there's a lot of people that would really truly love to talk to them if they need somebody to talk to. There's a lot of different ways, and you had mentioned some of those ways already, for them to get in touch with people. But this is not an easy disease, obviously. We're not trying to sugarcoat it, make Pollyanna out of this. But really, truly know that you're not alone.
Good point. Perfect wrap up. And with that, we're going to go ahead and close. I encourage people who are watching this to please share with others. There's always somebody in need. And it might surprise you who in your circle of family and friends are dealing with this that may not have told you yet. So help us get the conversation going and share this. Thank you all so much.